that's kind of what the field comes out as. It's like, this is just a great rush right now, and like I'm totally free and I can do anything I want, and I can just throw all the power I want now. I'm not limited, and I can do all these techniques, and I've got this platform and I can get to express myself, and you just feel completely like it's real artistic expression if you want to go deep.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chatter, a podcast from The Gist, with me, Josh Hamilton. Andy Young, a former flyweight world champion and one of the owners of Hybrid MMA, was my guest on today's show. Having been pestered by several friends to try MMA over the last year or two, I was keen to meet someone involved in the sport at a high level, and Andy was nice enough to agree to talk to me about it. We had a great chat about his experience fighting around the world, why MMA is more than about mindless violence, and the mental health benefits and the warrior mentality. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast and to our mailing list. And don't forget, my book, Brexit, The Establishment Civil War, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. You'll find the link in the description below. So here's Andy Young. So, Andy, it's a pleasure to get to talk to you in your beautiful gym. It's only the second in-person interview I've got to do this year, so it's a pleasure.
No, well, it's a pleasure to be on it, like, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So we're here to talk about MMA. It's something that quite a few of my friends have been spending quite a lot of time training and watching, and really just getting into the sport a lot. Like, where did you first come across it when you were younger?
Well, I always did martial arts. Like, I was 5-6 years old and began in like traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, kind of followed my brother's footsteps. You know, he was into it, and he'd come back and he'd be wearing his uniform and his belt and, you know, all buzzing about it. And I just couldn't wait until I turned 5 until I could go. And we grew up watching Ninja Turtles, you know, Power Rangers, all that stuff. So I just always had an inclination to do some sort of martial arts of some sort. So we got involved. I did that my whole childhood, and then started doing a bit more kind of kickboxing, you know, bits of like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and that. And I think I was maybe 16, and what were we watching? Cradle to the Grave, Jet Li, and it's a really funny look back, DMX and Jet Li. And in the show, there was a part where Jet Li kind of gets in the cage with like Tito Ortiz, and I was like, what's going on? I was like, Jet Li would beat this guy. Like, my brother's like, no, like he fights in the UFC. And I was like, what's that? And he was kind of explaining he's a badass, and like, you know, he's like, he knows all the martial arts. And I was like, what? And I was really perplexed by it. But soon after, I got interested and curious, and then we got UFC 42, I think it was, and it was Tito versus Ken Shamrock. And the whole build up to it, the whole buzz about it, and I just got really pulled into it. And that was really the first time I had ever seen MMA or watched it. And since then, I was just hooked. And that was the kind of the starting point of me being introduced to the sport. There was no clubs around at the time. I wasn't driving. I was 17, and kind of just waited until there was something as close to MMA as possible. And I ended up doing a sport called Sports Jiu-Jitsu, which was kind of like, at the time, it was like MMA, but point-based. Like, so like a punch he lands like 3 points, it kicks 5, takedowns like 10, submission wins the round, not the fight. So it's semi-contact. You'd be surprised how many people get knocked out though at a semi-contact competition. It's a good way to, you know, say, oh, you know, I lost, but I knocked the guy out, you know. So people will actually try and do that if they know they're losing, as a way out for their ego. So you would find that a lot at semi-contact competitions, but that was the closest thing to MMA. And I actually got onto a team representing Ireland. So we went to Jersey in 2007, and then Las Vegas in 2010. And we won in 2010, so it became the first world champion since England had that title for years and years. And then we got it off them in 2010. But even when I was there, again, I was such a fan of MMA, but there was no MMA to train in. That was the closest thing I could do. And when we were right there, obviously, capital of MMA at the time. So I went to go and see Extreme Couture. I went to go and see Vanderlei Silva's gym. And I was just like a kid in a candy shop when I was out there. And getting back, then I was able to find, the guys from the team really kind of started to create their own club. And that's really the first MMA training I started to do.
Because back then, 2010, it would have been still quite like a niche sport. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's fair?
Again, that was the days where it was, well publicized in America and stuff, and that was fine. Here, however, like people still thought it was, human cockfighting for the most part. Your average person didn't know what MMA was. When you told them, it's like, oh, I do mixed martial arts, they would, be perplexed by what you're talking about, and you'd have to say cage fighting, and then you would just get this odd look. And that was just the way it was. There was no Conor McGregor. There was no possibility at the time for someone from Ireland getting into the UFC. It wasn't seen as possible. And that's what I was fighting against. I started to compete when I was like 19, 20. And when I turned professional, 21, because I just knew this is it. This is what I want to do. I went to uni, did my psychology. But even when I was doing that, I knew I wanted to do MMA. And almost like it was a reason to get a degree to show that I can get one. Like almost that I'm not fighting because I've got no other options. I'm choosing to do this. So I think that was in the back of my head. But yeah, for sure, there was didn't look like it was possible from here to get into the UFC. And I competed, I fought up in Londonderry, and same card as McGregor. And that was, I think I must have been 2011 maybe. And yeah, like he won by knockout in a minute, and everyone was starting to take notice of him. And I fought his teammate the same night, and it was then a few years later he became, the big name and stuff. But it was just, that was the grassroots of it, and everyone fought. Everyone knew everyone in the sport in this country.
Well, he's now such a huge name that it's difficult to even imagine what it must have been like 9 years ago. Basically, no one had ever heard of him.
Yeah,
he's had such an impact upon he's really the person that I think really brought it mainstream. That's the
thing, my teammate Norman Park, he got into the Ultimate Fighter and won it, and there's no publicity. No one in Northern Ireland or any BBC, no one really covered it. No one really knew about it, and he got a contract with the UFC, and it was still a case of no publicity for someone achieving this incredible feat. And he went and fought in the UFC. Very few people even knew existed. And then McGregor came on the scene, but he just put out so much into the business side of the sport, entertainment business, and that's what people forget it is. And he just played it to a T with personality and everything he did. He got the sport noticed, give a lot of people like a real hero down in Dublin and down the south, and got it noticed. So that's where, whether you like him or not, he, especially for this country, he got it noticed. He got it on the map. So that's where respect's due for that.
No, I couldn't agree more. There was a moment I realized just how huge he'd become when I was living in Canada, and I was interviewing these two middle-aged women about this community center they were starting up for people to take yoga classes and teach painting and photography and stuff like that. And one of them was like, "You're from Ireland? Oh my God, that's like Conor McGregor." And I was like, wow, this suburban middle-aged mum knows who this guy is. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And what struck me was I went out to Kazakhstan and fought there. And straight away, again, I'm sitting in a car, and the guys are like, oh, McGregor. And I was like, all right, okay. So, that was, for as far as I'm probably the first guy, I think, from here to go out and fight in Kazakhstan. And like I said, again, anywhere I was going, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Slovakia, all these mad countries. And again, it was all McGregor, and it's just worldwide. And it's insane that what he's been able to do. So you can't help but respect that,
Well, enough about Conor McGregor. I wanted to talk to you, not him.
Yeah.
Not that he wouldn't be, I'm sure, interesting. So when did you then? So in 2010, you were doing some team competitions.
Yeah.
And
So
then when did you transition to doing your own fights?
So pretty much like I said, the only thing that came close to mixed martial arts here for a possibility for me to train in was that sports jiu-jitsu, and there was maybe only one or two clubs that I knew of, but one of them being Rodney Moores, my main coach up in Ballymena. But for me, with no car, to travel up to Ballymena from Newtonards was like an hour. It wasn't really practical, and the guys from the sports jiu-jitsu team, a lot of them and other teammates and training partners I had in Thai Jitsu that I trained in came together and built their own club in Belfast, and we basically just figured it out ourselves. And it was like looking back on it now, it was funny. I mean, there was no ring, so we got into a circle and that was it. Real, proper brawling. You got pushed back into the circle again. It was just that real tough mentality, and I'm grateful for that, because although it may not have been the best in my body, it was mentally, it tested you and made sure you knew you were a fighter. There was no snowflakes, there was no niceness, there was no friggin' worry about injury risk or anything like that. It was just, if you're tough, you stay on, that's it. And that's what really got us going, and it was great, and some great stories from the place,
Yeah, I'm sure that would be definitely good fun. There's, but people kind of have something against like really, really basic types of training sometimes. I think, especially in the modern world, where you can have like 10 different machines analyzing your every movement, and like having scientists analyze every single, like, this is the exact angle of approach that you need to have with something. There's something to be said about just basic,
just raw primal, like dog fighting, like kind of just that real, like that kind of fight, if you know what I mean. And like you need that, and again, you'll see that come out in some people, and you'll see those people that are kind of almost snowflake to be, oh, it's all the best stuff, and walk around with 2-3 personal trainers in the gym, and they've got all their fancy equipment and stuff, but they don't have that raw dog in them. And that you need that real fight when things get tough. In anything, you need to be able to bring that out, and it's just about the comfort zone at the end of the day. And I was shit scared every time I was in some time of sparring, but again, weight classes weren't a thing. I was fighting I was fighting at McGregor's weight, and I fought the highest I fought at 68 kilos, weighed in at 65. A lot of that was just carrying around. I was at university at the time, and just the diet was not good. And there was no such thing as really weight cuts for me. And again, ego, especially to being that young. Oh, I don't need a weight cut. I'm good enough. I'll fight anyone. All this stuff. And you realize now how stupid that was.
Yeah, so you were lightweight, Bama lightweight champion, and WWFC. Yeah,
so I fought. I started my career at featherweight, moved down to bantam, and then ended up at flyweight.
Okay.
So 56.5 kilos. So I'm not the biggest flyweight out there, to be honest. I'm walking around about 62 kilos. So the cut's fine. I feel great from it now that I know how to do it, of course. I got the. The story for the titles was quite interesting. I just went on this tear. I just got this crazy, drive in me, and real belief that it was possible. And I think that probably coincided with Norman getting to UFC, McGregor kind of on the scene, a lot more belief it's possible. And then all of a sudden, I won an Irish title. I defended it. I won a British title, then another one, then got a world title shot. That was in Dublin against Rani Sade, this German, and he was, almost untouchable, loads of hype behind him. Oh, Andy Young's going to lose, he's going to get destroyed, there's going to be no challenge for him at all. And took him 3 rounds. Everyone thought I won. I thought I won. It was just one of those close fights. Unfortunately, it was only 3 rounds. It should have been 5 as a world title, but Bama didn't want those for some reason. It was such a good night, and I had such fun during the fight. And it was gutting not to get the win that night, but I knew that it would lead to something. And sure enough, a month later, there was an opportunity to get a call up to go to Ukraine and fight for a world title out there against an undefeated local. Took him out in the second round, got the title, and that again, momentum and just gave me so much drive and even more encouragement. And then Ronnie vacated the title, went on the run, didn't want to fight me again. And that's what I say anyway. And then fought for the BAMMA world title then in February in the hometown Belfast. So
that must have been special.
Yeah, it was great. You know, it was the most incredible night. But I think just that the momentum, because like I said, that was 3 British title fights back to back, then a world title, then another one, then another one. So I was like 8 title fights in a row, winning arguably all of them, bar the Ronnie one, but subjective. But you know, so that got such confidence and momentum in me, and I brought that into the fight, and everything just aligned. I mean, that was the best performance. Everything led me to that moment, and I just, happy to say, captured it, and got the finish as well against, again, another undefeated guy, knocking out people cold. Everyone was worried about me, didn't want to say to me, but they were terrified. To get the one to stand up and see the crowd in front of me was just, it's indescribable. It's just the best feeling in the world. And I mean, that was definitely one of the best, most memorable nights of my life.
Now, you see, I can understand when you're saying about times when, okay, you've been told by people that they're worried that, everyone's saying, oh, maybe he's gonna get his ass handed to him.
Yeah.
And then you come out and you can say, no, you win, and you say, right, okay, I proved you all wrong, but the haters, that's got to feel amazing. I can get that. The thing that confuses me, right, not always, but sometimes I'm like, what? How can these people be having fun? And I'm not the only person, definitely with that view of who's ever watched UFC. There was a fight, I cannot remember who it was. It was Dustin Poirier and was it Gagey Poirier? And it was just a complete
Dan Hooker, was it? Poirier, and when was it recent?
Yeah. I'll ask Sam, and I'll put the link in the description. So if anyone's curious as to which fight we're talking about. But it was just a war, and the two guys, both of them just beaming at the end, the bloody faces, and they clearly had the best time in the world. But it doesn't matter who's won.
Yeah. I can kind of, there's a couple of things that can help maybe explain it. When you were a kid, you got brothers and sisters and stuff? Did you ever play fight? Yeah. And you had fun.
I had fun.
Yeah.
My little brother didn't so much. But.
Yeah. Well, it's that basic. That's what I describe people as, you're play fighting, you're having fun. And I know that it's that feeling you get when you're just having this tussle, and it's really good crack, and you're throwing people about. And that's kind of the same type of feel that you get when you're having a spar, and then it becomes a fight. But now you've got that feeling. I know there's more at risk now because you can get actually hurt, but then that brings adrenaline, and now it's like an adrenaline rush. So now you're like an adrenaline junkie. So you're jumping out of a plane, and you've got this adrenaline hitting you while you're having that feel of being in this play fight type of thing. So the two combine, and that's where it's fuck, this is fun. And that's kind of what the feel comes out as. It's this is just a great rush right now, and I'm totally free, and I can do anything I want, and I can just throw all the power I want now. I'm not limited, and I can do all these techniques, and I've got this platform, and I can get to express myself, and you just feel completely it's real artistic expression if you want to go deep, but nothing else matters. It's just you and them, and it's real mind. There's a real sense of stoic kind of mindfulness there. You're just in the moment, and it's an amazing feeling. Yeah. So it depends how you describe it, and then people will always put themselves in the shoes of a fighter. So if someone's not ever been hit before, they use their imagination and go, that looks sore. I would imagine that would be sore and painful. And so how can someone do that? But once you realize you're not made of glass, and when you do get hit, you realize that's nothing. Factor in that there's a lot of adrenaline running at the night. Your body is actually conditioned to the shots. You see guys have 5-round fights and they come out without really any marks on them. And it's just, there's a lot of processes that are involved. For an average person that's never been punched before, they're going to feel that. But if you're used to it and that's your sport and you're at the highest level of it, then it's a totally different game. So it's hard to compare someone who has never done any exercise, sport, anything, to then a professional athlete that you're watching.
So Do you find that there's like a type of person or a type of build or a type of mentality that tends to do well in MMA, especially of people who are maybe coming in as pure beginners? Can you predict when people come in, or after maybe like getting a feel for them, like are they going to take to it or not, or do some people surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get people that surprise you. I mean, it's very clear who's going to do well. When you get guys walking in and you can tell straight away there's an ego on their shoulders and they think they're great and they're not like, they don't open up to listening. So it's like, listen, this hand's dropping a little bit. If you keep it up, it'll keep you a bit safer. And they're like, no, I know what I'm doing type of thing. They won't take that on board. So they're not moldable. You can't help them as much because they're not open to listening because their ego's blocking that. Whereas other people come in and they're like, I love this sport. I really want to learn. I'm having so much fun. And like, I'll listen to anything. And like, you show them something and they're like, oh, that's great. Why do we do this? Or could I do this? Or there's so many questions. So the more people that are asking questions, you can tell if you're asking questions because you want to know, you want to learn. And as human beings, like, we're built just to learn, and we can develop any skill that any other human's got. So it's a skill, and it's something that we can build. And it's the ones that are the most passionate is the best indicator. I can go quite scientific. Well, yeah, because I want to talk about this as well, is like intrinsic and like kind of extrinsic motivation. And it's the ones that are intrinsic. Loads of studies show that intrinsic motivation is the biggest predictor for success. Intrinsic being so intrinsic will be your internal kind of reasons for doing it. You're doing it for the joy and love of doing it, and the process, basically enjoying the process of doing it, and it's his own reward. Extrinsic, gold medal. I am only doing it for a gold medal. If the gold medal's not there, I wouldn't do it. And that's the problem that we face now, is someone comes in and all they want to do is have a fight and get a win, and that's it, and walk away. Or they just want a picture outside, a cage with the gloves on and like a suit on, and like they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're just doing it for that external like gratification and people saying, yes, here you go, you're doing very well, and there's a gold medal around your neck. That's not going to go too far. And when you're in the shit and getting a really hard workout and you're getting beasted, if all your motivation is just to get a gold medal at the end and that's it, that's going to falter and that's going to fall on you. So to have that intrinsic, I love the process, I love getting pushed down, and I'm struggling to get back up, and I love, because that's going to get me as a better person and like build me as a character and build me as a person, and like that's more of the process that you can enjoy, and leads to more success.
So you find that people who would deal well with adversity and struggle, and who would be quite maybe strong-minded, would take better to it because the physical punishment, or
no, I don't mean any of that. It's just like in terms of if it's tough, if you see someone struggling in a workout, they're like, this is hard, I'm going to stop, or this is hard, but I'm going to grit my teeth and just push and finish this set. That, you don't need to be doing the same amount of sets or same amount of weight or same amount of exercise as someone else. It's just how you respond to when it gets difficult. And that doesn't need to be someone who's just born an athlete. There's a lot of guys I coach that are like in just one-on-one sessions. And like, there's a guy I'm training and he's just started and he is so into it. And he shows so much more motivation and enthusiasm and just love and passion for it. And he's not a super athlete, he's only started, but like he's got such great predictors of like success at it. And there's guys that claim that they want to be the next like, UFC champion, but when things get tough, you see that they're looking for excuses and looking to get out. And it's just a mindset that physically they're maybe more capable and they've got the strength, the speed, the fitness, but when things get tough and they're getting maybe outstruck on the feet or something happens, they'll look for a way out because they can't handle it, their ego can't handle it, and they're not willing to put that to the side and be open-minded and take it on the chin and learn.
Do you have like mental toughness training as part of the program? Like, this legit question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go. Yeah, I'm not just going to get them to stand out and like hit them with sticks and just toughen them up. And mental training stuff. There's a lot of visualization stuff that you can do with people. But again, it's the mindset stuff of like when getting the right workouts in. I mean, everyone's different fitness levels, but if you do, 3 rounds and you're exhausted, you can see how the person copes in the 4th round. Someone else is fitter and comes along, they'll smash out 4 rounds and they're okay. They're fine. but then you do another one and another one and another one until they're at the same level of exhaustion, and then you see how they respond. Dan Gable, one of the best wrestlers that existed, he was coaching one time, and he basically told all the guys, this is the last round, guys. Everything you have for these 2 minutes, everything. 2 minutes elapsed, and they're like, okay, another round, guys, let's go. It's the last round. And he did this over and over and over again, and people are going crazy, throwing their hands up there, storming off, and that was to see who was still there, and that's the mindset. And there's a lot of examples of people that do that same thing. Like the SAS, for example, I was reading Bear Grylls' book. They climbed over mountains for days and days, got to the end, they had the wagon to pick them up, and they're like, oh, thank God we got it. And the guy said, no, this is the worst, performance we've ever seen. Turn around, go back to the start. Of course, people break down crying, all the rest of it. Bear Grylls said, look, if I'm going to start strong. He climbed to the top of the first mountain. A guy was there to take his name, said, well done, go back. They just want to see how you will respond. And that's what I'm saying. So physically, that doesn't matter. It's where the mind's at, Mm-hmm.
That just reminds me of that scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker is telling one of the cops that he knows his friends better than he does because he saw them right at the end, and that's when you see the real person is just before they die.
Yes.
So maybe you see the real mental toughness just before people are physically exhausted.
Yes. And a lot of movie references here, but if you take one out of The Matrix, actually, I think the second one. I love my movies, but basically in it, who is it? It's your guy in the white kind of gi, kind of Asian guy with sunglasses.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Yes, he says basically you don't really know someone until you fight them. It's 100%. So when you spar someone or you roll with them or you do wrestling with them, you'll know exactly what they're made of. If they've got an ego and they're trying to prove something on you, if they could have hurt you or submitted you, but they didn't, and they held back, and what level they go on you, and if they get tired, you can see if they're going to push through that or if they're going to quit. There's a lot of guys that will say, oh, nice and easy, do a light round, and then they just swing for you, they try and catch you off guard and knock you out, only to apologize and say, oops, sorry about that. And so you'll get a lot of different personalities come in, and you can really learn so much about someone after a couple of rounds of fighting. And that's what I love about it. You get a real insight into someone, even more so when you compete then afterwards. That's why everyone hugs. You can't help but respect the person that's got in there, went through the same things as you have, and you both know what's went on in there. And it's a real nice process.
Do you think that's partially also because you're kind of breaking down you're stripping away all the social norms and engaging in the kind of violence that wouldn't be acceptable except within the confines of either a gym or a ring? You're stripping away all the niceties of society that we've kind of
I mean, definitely there's something about it. It's quite primal. That's just that real fight response, fight flight response or whatever, and you're in there and you're competing, and it's definitely outside the norm. And again, there's a lot of stuff that's outside the norm, like say skydiving, bungee jumping. You're not meant to do that shit. No. But there's always things that make you feel alive, and that's one of the things. You're elevated above the norm when you're in there and you're competing, and that's a great liberating feeling.
So when did you then start to move towards coaching? When did you decide you wanted to start imparting your knowledge upon other people?
So after I won the BAMA title, I went off soon after to Team Alpha Male in California with Uriah Faber and some of the top UFC guys, and did a great training camp out there, and was all set to come back in the summer and defend my title. When I came back, the money that I had won from BAMA, I used to get myself out there and pay for everything, with the expectation I'll come home, I'll compete and I'll fight, and then sure, that money will keep me afloat. I got injured. Fight got cancelled. Fight got moved to November. No money in the bank. No nothing. Right. What I do, I can go back, maybe do a bit of personal training or something. And I suppose I have a little bit of ego out in the way, but I was like, no, look, I've just won a world title. I'm just back from training with all the UFC guys. I'm on top of my game here. I'm a world-class athlete. Why am I kind of working, say, minimum wage at the time, or what am I, why am I doing that? I've got these skills. Why am I not teaching this? So it was helping my fiance, Stacey, as well. She kind of said, look, you need to teach, share those skills. And there's a big call out in my hometown in Newton Ards. There was no mixed martial arts anywhere around here. So the time kind of seemed to coincide. And I set up my first club out of a leisure centre and started in a small room and just started teaching out of there, and it just kind of started to grow. And I told everyone in there at the start, it's a small room, small whatever, but this will build. One day I'm going to have this gym. It's going to be epic, massive, blah, 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 and we'll make it work, and it'll happen. And it was in the same way I thought years ago about, I'll be a professional mixed martial artist, I'll be a world champion, I'll be UFC, whatever. And then when it actually happens, you're like, oh, right, what else is possible? So when I said about the club, I knew it was. And then here we are today, and I've got the gym of my dreams, and I get to share this as well with my good friend and one of my best training partners. Loads of pictures up here actually of the two of us, but Arno DeSantos, two of us teamed up then, and we got this facility, and we run it together, and it's definitely a dream come true, and we couldn't ask for having a better person to run it with, so everything just coincides, right? And that was kind of the start of the teaching and running the club.
Had you always maybe thought that you'd go into teaching, or was it something you just sort of came to like at that moment?
No, again, the thing about, it was when I was on that kind of journey of like self-development, self-improvement, understanding that if anything in the world, if you enjoy it enough, that someone else will enjoy it out there, and then you can just share that skill then with them, and there will always be people that are wanting to learn. So retirement or whatever day it comes, I can still teach and pass on my skills.
So what is it that you find you really enjoy about teaching? Like what do you get out of it? What's your favorite part of it?
I suppose
you don't enjoy it at all.
No, I say I do. I love it. And I think, there's a lot of benefits to it. You get forced then to learn and study MMA every day. And that was the thing. When you're a full-time fighter, you can't be training every single minute of every single day, and then your off time, and in theory, yes, you wake up and you just study MMA for 2 hours and take notes and then go to the gym and come back and do it again and again. It's very hard to have that self-discipline. You might do it, but I find it very difficult to maintain that when there was no one over my shoulder telling me, you need to sit down and study this and study that. When you're teaching a class, you need to be up to scratch with the techniques you're about to teach, and you're forced then to go wake up, right, okay, let's go over the class routine of the techniques I'm teaching today, and it makes you accountable to then learn it. So I'm learning more and I'm teaching more, and I'm becoming a better mixed martial artist from that. But to be able to see the progression of students, and to see the enthusiasm of students, the same enthusiasm that got me into the sport, and to nurture that, and to see people, like I said, progress it's a great feeling. And like I said, Joe, I just walked in there, I took him into a leisure centre, and he's 15, 16, and he's now growing into an absolute machine. And he's a beast, and now he's giving me some serious trouble in sparring. And that's, for me, that's like, crazy. Like I can get, like, he's been able, there's a lot of factors and a lot of other people that came together along with him and his drive to get to where he's at, but to see that is just amazing, and definitely very proud to be able to be a part of that, and to see that knowledge be shared to him, and then for him to use that and get to where he is today.
So how did you meet your training partner and business partner?
Well, Arno was at that original gym with me in Belfast.
Okay, so did he take the class, or he helped you?
No, he was one of the training partners, and the two of us are the same size, so we're both wee short guys, and the same kind of chip on our shoulder, small man syndrome. And we just then became straight away great training partners, like some serious fun sparring rounds. And that was like great training partners and friends from then. And then 10, 11 years later, we went off, and we've been away together to Ukraine and all over the show. Elite Corner, we had quite a few fights, and that's been a good friendship, and like I said, training partners, and then that led into an opportunity to get a gym together. So it's worked out perfect. And like I said, because we know each other so well, and not just in a friendship type of way, but because of that fighter mentality of sharing the rounds with each other and training with each other, you really know a character, and the two of us know each other so well inside out that we know it's the right fit, and the two of us have been able to build this place into what it is now.
Yeah, it's got to be. Where do you think you mentioned you'd been to Kazakhstan to fight? Where is that the strangest place you've ever or
Yeah, I've been some crazy places, but that I wrote my goals down a long time ago. I had a mental kind of sport coach, motivational coach, Norik Kasharian, and Norik told me originally the first thing, write down all your goals and what you want to achieve and stuff. One of it was to be a world champion, travel the world and compete. And then I started to do that. And it was just some countries, I'd never go to Kazakhstan. I'd never really go to, to Kiev and like all these countries. And Kazakhstan was just crazy. I was expecting it to look like something out of, Borat movie. And it was just the most mad adventure. But when we got into the capital of Astana, it was like a utopia. It was like insane. Like my weigh-in was in this huge shopping mall with a roller coaster and a T-Rex and all this crazy shit. Yeah. And I actually went out with Reese McKee at the time. Reese just got signed to the UFC there. And Reese and me were just, we just couldn't get over the place. It was nuts. But just so much more advanced than here or anywhere else in Europe. And again, I think a lot of people here assume out Eastern Europe or all these mad countries, they're kind of behind us or something, but they had it down, like, it was epic. But I would never have been there, if it wasn't for the sport. So very, very cool. And there's never going to be something like that you regret,
The idea of really like visualizing and setting out your goals is something that people like think I'm really insane if I tell them that like it actually works.
And it's because it sounds too simple, a thing to get such good results. And so it's ignored. But that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of things that sound simple or come across as, but are the most effective. And doing a visual walkthrough of something and then going through the physical walkthrough, your mind is, once you understand your mind, it's very difficult for it to know the difference between what it imagines or thinks in its head and then what you actually do in reality is so amazing. So I'll do a walkthrough for a fight. I'll picture walking out in the arena, the crowd. I'll picture going into the cage, touching gloves, competing. But it's how you do it, so people can just I'll visualize that. You have to make it real. You have to picture and imagine the smells, all 5 senses, that taste, like sound, everything, and make it as real as possible. Close your eyes, walk around, go through the physical motions of moving around, high-fiving the crowd, all this stuff, and you replay that. And the beauty is you can do it anywhere, anytime. You do it 100 times in a row. It comes the actual night. You've been there before. You've done this. You've actually already won the fight. So when you're walking out, you've got this in the back of your head that, oh yeah, no, I remember being here before. I remember going out. I remember winning the fight. So I'm just going to go out and do that. I'm just going to go through the motions that I've set out in my head. So very, very powerful process.
Yeah, it definitely has to be. I mean, I find that I'd written down like every year just my goals for the year, and then I find this most of them end up coming true. Just out of I don't know if it was because I set a low barrier to success or and then I came across this professor who was given an interview with Tim Ferriss, and she just talked about how every year the first thing she did with her university students was get them to write like their day 10 years from now.
Oh, nice.
And she says that every single year without fail she gets calls and letters and messages from the class of 10 years ago going, oh my god, how did you know this was exactly how my life was how did you know that this was going to work, that you were going to tell me exactly how my life was going to turn out. It's such a powerful tool, and I guess people really don't realize how powerful it can be.
That's the thing. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's going to be very hard to get. Writing down 100 of the things you want to achieve in your lifetime. The people who have done that, something like 70% of them have achieved like over 60 or 70 or 80 of those points. When, say, for example, I climbed Kilimanjaro. Now, If I said, right, I want to challenge, I want to do something crazy for charity, I want to blah, blah, blah. And you're walking down the street and you see a sign, climb Kilimanjaro for Marie Curie raised 10. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to do something like that. Okay, I'll sign up. But if you've never stopped to go, what do I want to achieve here? Then you've not asked that question. You've not got an answer. So you're not out looking for that. So you would just walk past that sign and not think anything else of it. So just by writing down what you actually want means that your unconscious knows what it's looking for. And it's, you know what I mean? And that's the simplicity of it. But like I said, I just encourage anyone just to sit down and write down what they want. Once they know what they want, it's going to be easier to find it. But then that comes down to self-discipline and when are you going to do this? Write down when you're going to do it. Keep yourself accountable. What happens if you don't do it? Things like that. So this is where having someone that can say, look, two of us are going to have a chat about your goals and stuff Tuesday at like 3 p.m. Then it's going to make you sit down and do it. So that's where if you can't do it yourself, tell your friend, your best friend, two of us just want to meet up at whatever time and we'll just write down your goals or something like that. Two of us will just do that and say, yep. And then both of you are going to sit down and make sure it happens. Figure out a way of doing it. Your friend or partner, whoever, just try and get something to keep you accountable for your goals.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be that difficult to find someone to help you talk about your future with. I mean, if you're struggling for that, then yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there's always someone who will.
Yeah.
But then, what was the next thing I wanted to talk to you about? I keep blanking. I keep looking at it, and then this is also why podcasts break, because I can just blank on what I want to ask you about. And then
mental health.
That is exactly what it was.
Yeah. There's a lot you could get to be said about MMA and mental health and martial arts in general. And you're saying kind of before almost about the type of people that might do well or type of people MMA might attract. And a lot of people that are MMA fighters go against what an average person might assume. Most MMA fighters are very quiet, reserved, very friendly, very nice people, but very soft-spoken. That's what a lot of fans get surprised by. They meet people, their favorite fighters, and they're so quiet, humble, soft-spoken. But you're an absolute killer. You're an absolute machine. It's like, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like they have an avenue to express their pent up emotion or aggression or whatever. They can take that out and they've got a positive outlet for that. They're letting that out, and the rest of the time then they've got it controlled. It's the ones that have maybe a bad day at work and they pent it up. They don't have a way to express that, and then that bottles over and overflows when they maybe have a few drinks or they can't take it anymore, and then it just blows up or it implodes. And this is where you need an outlet. You need a form of catharsis to get rid of the aggression. Whether that's running, cycling, some sort of workout, but with something like martial arts or whatever, you can actually physically hit a bag or hit something, and that is what people, that primal kind of feeling of just like letting the emotions out. And as you do that, you're also learning, developing a skill and controlling your own emotions, and that's where I was saying about intrinsically you want to focus on developing yourself as a person, learning how to all the virtues of respect, integrity, discipline, all that. You need those to be successful in the sport. That's only going to help out the rest of your life if you've got those characteristics. So this is where a lot of people have a lot of internal things of me, myself, very, very quiet, very reserved, very shy, growing up, very insecure. And yeah, like I would never take out, if I was, kind of getting raked in school and people were kind of messing with me and stuff, I wouldn't ever like kind of hit them out of anger or anything, but I would just be really annoyed and I would pent it up and get annoyed. And then later on I would take it out in punch bag, and a lot of stuff I would internalize. And you would never, you're too nice to actually do anything about it. And a lot of it is that kind of nice guy type of thing. And there's a lot of guys that are kind of like that, and they'll take it out on themselves and be very hard on themselves and beat themselves up. And it's only then from having somewhere to really express that. And for me, it took competing to really bring out my best in myself, that it allowed me to kind of, get the confidence out, up and really go on that progression of like development and kind of come out the other side to really, see what I'm made of and have that real sense of self-esteem. And that's what I find a lot of people have is, they come with that internal tough, it's very hard on themselves and they need something to give them that internal validation. And, I think MMA is a great thing for that.
So have you seen that kind of transformation in, say, any of your students, where or where perhaps, like you say that people will often meet their MMA heroes or UFC heroes, and that they're surprised by how maybe zen they are, or just, like you say, quietly confident, just very.
Well, if you think about it, you fight 3 times a year maybe, so 3 out of 365 days they're in there competing. The rest
They're
of the
mostly
days,
peaceful.
Yeah, the rest of the day, exactly. And it kind of goes that quote: "You're better being a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." So having, you've got that power and ability. You're able to fight, and you know how to look after yourself. So you've nothing to prove, and chip on your shoulder. So you're walking down the street and someone pushes you and wants to fight. It's like, don't be stupid, and the confidence that you exert instantly. The guy's like, why is he so confident? Doesn't sound like a good idea. I'll try and back out of it now. Whereas if you show weakness, or you show, oh no, I don't want to fight, you're giving him what he wants. So you learn to fight, so you don't need to fight, and that's what people don't understand either. So that's one of the biggest points.
I think it's Nero: if you want peace, prepare for war.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So always to have it, just you don't want to use it, but it's there.
So have you seen like that, maybe that happen where in a student where they've maybe been quite either bolshy and quite like loud, and then having practiced that they've become like more sort of, I don't know, reserved and quietly confident instead of being very, I don't know.
Yeah,
or perhaps the opposite way, where someone's been very shy and really come out their shell.
I'd say more so the opposite way, that people are very quiet, reserved, they're in a class and they don't know anyone, and like they don't have any skills yet, and they don't know what to do, and they're very wary. But as that builds, all of a sudden they're great. Like, it brings out so much confidence in you, because you're able to actually hold your own in, like, in a spar, or in an understanding technique, and it gives you such confidence walking around. And again, there's a lot of students and stuff out of the train, and you can see that in them. And even the way they stand and look and walk around, their chest is up, their chin's up, and just feel better about themselves. And it's having that internal confidence, and it really helps to build that with the sport. Very few of the people in the sport do it just for competition. They do it mainly for all those benefits. And that's the only thing I want to say is, like, sometimes people just want to compete, but again, if you're competing for the wrong reasons, and you go in underprepared, not ready for it, and you get beaten badly in your first fight, it can put you down very badly into a real hole, to be honest. And like, it can lead very easily to depression and things like that. And depression is a huge thing with fighters, and it's very difficult to have an identity as a real tough badass, and you're like, the best in the world, and then you get knocked out cold, and you're like, am I the best in the world? What if I'm really bad? What if that happens again? Everyone's going to look at me. I'm going to be so embarrassed. How can I tell my kids I've been knocked out? They're going to see this? They're going to laugh at me. All this stuff goes through your head, and this narrative just constantly plays, and that's the type of shit that leads to real serious issues. So that's where you see some guys in the UFC, they've been knocked out, and they come back and they win by knockout. And to do that, looks like people aren't appreciating how much that took, maybe. And that's why I love the sport, because you get people that go through that journey of like what they manage to control there, not to let those thoughts get in their head, or to see to battle those thoughts and come out the other side. So that's where there's so much to the sport. And so it's just, if you're competing, to be aware that there's dangers. Make sure your mind is tough, and you're willingly going to accept if something happens and you do lose, you'll be okay about it. You'll brush it off and you'll move on. And it's about the process and the performance, not a win or loss at the end of the day.
How did you find it when you had your title, your world flyweight, you said, world title, and then at some point you kind of have to accept that you're maybe past your peak or past your prime, or for example in the case of Tyson Fury, I know once he'd become world champion, then he had a huge problems. He just didn't know where to go. Like do you see that often in MMA, or maybe just in yourself, where there was trouble once you'd hit those, like, I was the greatest in the world, and having to accept that that's maybe not the case anymore?
For sure, Josh. Like, the world title was great, and I was aware though that it was important when you're on a platform like that to plant as many seeds as possible. Like, I was in a great position then. People were going to listen to what I had to say, so I could get out good messages. So I went to my old primary school. I did talks. I did like motivational speeches. I did like everything I could to reinvest with everyone when I had that position, because I knew it might not last forever. I was trying my best not to allow it to get to my head to be, this next big guy that's going to be in the UFC and all the rest of it. But easier said than done. And when you get so much confidence about you, it can really, it can impact your performance. I went into my title defense just too, not cocky, but just, I'm going to win this. And not bringing enough hunger to go, to really have a drive that I had when I was fighting for it. And they say the wolf coming up the hill is always hungrier than the one at the top. And that's what I didn't bring into practice. So that, impacted the performance that night. And I lost the title that night. And, I kind of went on a bad run and I've lost the last few. But difference being my mentality now is I'm at peace with that. That's okay. Like, there's things I learned from every performance and it'll push me in a different direction. I'll continue to improve. My story's going to be even more powerful now because after losses now, I'm going to come back and win and come up again. And people are going to go, wow, you know what? Even if I lose a few in a row, I can come back and I can do this because he's done that. And that's where there's always something you can take from it, or it's a loss or anything. You can always be the first one or someone that can still be an inspiration to other people. And that's a motivator, and that's, I'm total peace with it. It's just the way the sport goes. And I've described it as snakes and ladders. You're going up, you're doing great. You just take a wrong step and you're right back down and start again. And that's how the sport goes.
When's your next fight?
Well, with the whole COVID thing, it's been tricky. I've been gearing myself up to go again. I wanted 3 originally by the end of this year. The way things have worked, it's been more and more lockdowns and more issues, but I'm still hopeful something will come up. I've had some niggles, some wee injuries, and with those and no fight up in line, it's kind of made things difficult to push through a training camp, so to speak, when I know there's maybe not a chance of a fight and I've got this niggle and I might make it worse. And is it smart to push through that at the moment, or to take my time and just, the problem is, or the thing is now, I don't have the same pressures on my shoulders now. I'm letting go of, I need to have this many fights by this age, I need to have this and that. There's no time restricted things for me now. I'll have a fight when it's the right time and it'll feel right to me. So I'm just going to heal up these niggles. I already feel mentally sharp, technically good, boost the fitness up a little bit, and I'll be good to go, That's the thing about the lockdown though. It's very easy to go off and have some takeaways and just enjoy the conference a bit too much. But
yeah,
I'm 5 minutes from my gym, luckily, so I can come down and train and keep myself accountable. But it's very easy to get takeaways at a time like this,
So what did you make of the Khabib Gaethje fight?
Wow, yeah, very emotional, very kind of a lot of respect, like huge respect for both guys, and Khabib did a phenomenal job. I'm just getting more and more impressed by what I'm hearing now. He had a broken foot. Apparently, he had told Cormier that he was going to submit him the way he did, and it was all pre-planned, and that's why he wanted to do it. And he didn't want to break his arm in front of Gaethje's family or something, and all this craziness. And he did it, and he's definitely the most dominant I think we've ever really seen, and no damage taken. There's a lot of guys that are dominant, Anderson Silva, John Jones and stuff, but a lot of it, injuries and stuff can happen. There's more kind of risks involved with the striking game, but he's really just kind of taking them down and mauled them every time. So he's not taking much damage. He's been dominant in every fight. He's won them all, and he's 32 and he's retired. So get in, get the accomplishment and get out, and your body's good, your mind's good, and everything's in place. So he's done perfect that way. And I'm so sad about his dad, and to be able to kind of honor him and come back and win that for him was just really nice to see. And the way Gaethje, went over and whispered to him, your dad would be proud and all this stuff, it really brings a tear to your eye. And again, that just shows you the sport and what the fighters are made of and stuff, and how much love and respect there is for each other.
Yeah, there was clearly a serious release of emotion when that guy finished. When he was just you sobbing on the ground after the fight. You felt like that was just everything that had been pent up.
And that's the thing, is to connect with just the story of the fighters and the emotions they're going through. And that's where a lot of people watch it for things like that and what they're fighting for and all that, not just the violence. That's a very small percentage of people just watch it for that. It's for what are they fighting for? He's fighting for his dad. You're like, oh, I want him to win, for his dad, make his dad proud. His dad coached him his whole life, and that's his motivator there. You know, it's not I want to hurt this guy and I want to be violent. It's I want to perform and show this amazing skill that my dad taught me. And when you view it like that, it's a totally different way, you know.
Yeah, it's not blood sacrifice in his dad's name.
Yeah. I know, yeah. So that's just it's how you look at the sport sometimes. But yeah, I thought it was a great fight.
Do you think how quickly it was over makes McGregor's performance look better, like against Khabib?
Yeah, I mean,
it really just felt like me watching it like that Khabib was trying to beat him standing up, realized he couldn't, and was just like, fuck it, we're done, we're out, just finished it when he wanted to finish it.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt like, I don't know, I still feel like McGregor could have done better if he trained properly, but
yeah, just stylistically too, it's a tricky matchup for him, you know. I did think Gaethje was going to do a bit more of his wrestling, even shoot on Khabib. But this is the problem, you know, when you're watching, you're like, he should have done this, he should have done that. You don't know what the guy's going through the guy's head in there, and it's very easy to think, you know, he should have done this, but it's whatever way he felt in there, and, you know, it's just, it is what it is, and that's the way sport goes.
Yeah,
you
you
know?
could say the guy's the second best in that division in the entire, so the second best in that weight class in the entire world.
Yeah.
Like his decision making probably isn't that bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
what's it? I mean, that's it. You look at his last fight, and he was just spectacular. And it depends who you're fighting, and it just depends on your decision making in that moment in time. It's very hard to perform 100% your best on that dedicated time and space and day. I mean, you wake up sometimes, you just don't feel very lethargic that day, and you're like, don't I feel too hot? And it's like, oh yeah, so I have to go out and give my best performance ever tonight at 7 p.m. And you have to have that, like, I mean, to be able to switch that on and off, that's the thing. That's why it's difficult. It's very easy to be sitting at home with a coffee, watching motivational videos, getting pumped up, and then go out for a really hard session. And, you know, no one's there to, you know, to criticize you. No one's going to know anything. You can mess up and it won't matter. Like, so it's easy to get a good performance that night, but not a specific time and date, you know, that's given to you, and you have to just perform, you know, so. Yeah, a lot of factors, yeah.
So who's the GOAT? Is it John Jones?
Yeah, it's tricky. I would say George St. Pierre, but that's a number of biases and stuff, but I do think because he's the way he carries himself, the way he came back after years off and moved up a weight division and fought the champ and won and finished them, like, thought that was just the best ever. Very well rounded. Hasn't taken much damage, has done fantastic. John Jones is more, he's exceptionally good as well. But I think with everything else going on, when you say GOAT in terms of just performance, you term, you know, the best fighter, all-round fighter, and as a fighter, you should probably be not on taking performance enhancers. So
maybe not, no.
Yeah, so I think, you know, just like for outside of sport and things like that, that does take away and tarnish him massively, and impacts his legacy that way, which is a real shame. But he is absolutely phenomenal, and it's a matter of time before I imagine he will get a loss, but people will be ready just to walk away from him at that point. But no, he's done phenomenal. So yeah, I would say GSP just because he's not really messed up in anything like that, and he's done fantastic that way, and he's came back from adversity. And because Jones hasn't come back from adversity, I think for that reason it's very hard to say as well that he's the best, you know.
So what's the future hold for Hybrid MMA?
So for Hybrid MMA, we want to keep building and growing it, and develop the new breed of top kind of athletes and fighters in the world. And I mean, like I said, we've only been operating, take COVID out of it, only really been run for 8 months, and you know we've built the place and we're so proud of it. And I mean, we've just added to it. We've got our own kind of hybrid clothing now. We've just got in hybrid MMA gloves and everything, and hitting a lot of niches that other gyms don't have. We just want to be different and really kind of represent the sport in a good way. And that's why it's not a lot of, you know, reds and fighter kind of, you know, colors and like real aggression. Like, you come in, it feels like it's, you know, it's a more peaceful self-development center for like improving athletes and skills, and like, you know, that's what I want to get across, self-development, and you know, learning that kind of, going on that journey of just improving yourself daily, and that's what we want the gym to stand for. And you know, like I said, it's not, well, I mean, there's the quote there I've got up from Dan Gable actually, and gold medals aren't really made of gold. They're made of sweat, determination, and a hard to find alloy called guts. And it's just developing the right kind of virtues and characteristics in people in here, because that'll help in everyday life. And it's not just about their competition, but how they've developed as people as well. So, but yeah, that's the goals for Hybrid, and myself continue to develop the career, get back on track with things, and it'll fall into place, I'm sure, at the right time. But I've still got the eyes on the gold and getting into the UFC, and 31. So I know there's guys fighting in their late 40s. I don't plan to fight for that long, but even 5-6 years, there's a lot you can accomplish. And even in the space of 6 months, you can get 3 fights. So you can change your whole life around very quickly in the sport, and that's why, again, I'm very, very positive about it. And I know what I'm capable of on the mindset and stuff. So again, it gives me a sense of peace. I know I'll be able to turn it around, get back up, get another title added to the wall, and and keep growing that way. So it's all part of it.
Well, that's a nice place to end it, Andy. Thanks very much.
No, thank you very much, Josh. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast and to our mailing list. And don't forget, my book, Brexit, The Establishment Civil War, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. You'll find the link in the description below. Until next time, thanks for listening.